Hellmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. See Hellmaster EX in action at a Yamaha Outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's November 7th. These are your headlines. Hearing about a lot of bonito this week, which is kind of cool going into November. Also hearing about a lot more bigger togs showing up in eastern Long Island Sound. And we've got some trout stocking to talk about. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Before we begin, we've got a few news items to share with you guys. The first one is all about that trout stocking. We'll start off in Rhode Island, where over the last 3 or 4 years, it's become a tradition that ahead of the Veterans Day holiday, DEM stocks a bunch of ponds. Now this year they're going to do 15 ponds. The last few years they've been doing the Sebago salmon, but it doesn't look like they're going to be doing the salmon this year. It's going to be brook trout and rainbow trout. Maybe they'll sneak a couple salmon in there, I don't know. But in either case, it's a great tradition. It's done as sort of a thank you to veterans, give them an opportunity to get out and do some fishing in the late fall. And we all get to benefit from it as well. They're going to do 15 ponds. I got the list here on the screen for you guys. And you can go there and have a pretty darn good chance of catching some fish. Other thing we heard about was some sea frail and brown trout being stocked into Beach Pond and Long Pond out in Connecticut. And also some more Atlantic salmon going into the Naugatuck and the Chautauqua rivers. So we have lots of fresh stockings to talk about. Also, you know, throughout Connecticut and throughout Massachusetts, even though the stocking, the main body of the stocking is now over, both states do a phenomenal job, and you're going to find some fish if you go on to the respective fisheries websites and just look for the pond nearest you that was recently stocked. You're going to catch some fish. So that's one thing that we got going on. Next up, let's check in with our tournaments. Here is a breakdown of what's going on in the Coastal Kayak Clash and in the Dreamboat Challenge.
What a week for comebacks. First the election and now the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge with only 3 weeks left. Kyle Kraus of Cutchogue, Long Island weighed in a sea bass of 4.75 pounds and a blackfish of 8.95 pounds, putting him first in both species and top of the leaderboard. He was in third place last week, but now in first with 36 points. Scott Waterman drops to second with 24 points, and Ahmed Solomon is in third with 19 points. Other notable weigh-ins were New Jersey subscriber Jim Payer from Icona Harbor with a 2.4-pound scup, and Christopher Jones from Ridge, Long Island with a tog of 7.08 pounds. 3 weeks left, still plenty of time to enter your fish to win a Steiger craft powered by Yamaha and many other great prizes, but you must be a Fisherman subscriber to enter. For all the details on how to enter and the rules, visit thefisherman.com. There were no new entries in the Coastal Kayak Clash this week, so the standings remain the same. Todd Treones has 4 points, Bob Wagner has 9 points, and Justin Oser has 10 points. To be part of the Coastal Kayak Clash and for your chance to win the Old Town Sportsman PDL 120 fully outfitted by YakAttack.com and other great prizes, you must be a Fisherman subscriber. For all the details on how to enter and rules, visit thefisherman.com.
Now let's check in with Jenni Ackerman. Here's her latest installment of Open Boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. Today we are obviously in my kitchen and I want to show you guys just a quick and easy tuna marinade that I do. I haven't been out tuna fishing yet this season, but luckily for me, I have people that like me enough to give me some tuna that they caught, and I'm even lucky enough to have people that like me so much that they hand deliver homemade fresh tuna poke bowls right to my doorstep. So you can't beat that. But if you have leftover tuna or your buddy just dropped off some of his, I'm gonna show you a marinade option for the tuna that you have. So let's get right into it. Obviously, like, I washed my hands, but I'm gonna just put my hair up real quick and we're going to get right into making this marinade. So I have a bowl. This is not Paula Deen cooking here. This is Jenni eyeballing her recipe to make it work. So with the ingredients I have toasted sesame seed oil, soy sauce with the reduced sodium, I have cayenne pepper, and I have Mike's hot honey. So I'm going to start off with adding, you know, you can do a couple teaspoons and stuff, but really I just eyeball this stuff. And the biggest thing is I add this soy sauce last, because if you add too much soy, it like immediately overpowers everything. So do that last. So I'm gonna add some toasted sesame oil into my bowl. And like I said, like this, it's just, you're eyeballing it. So it's like I just put some into my bowl, and then I'm going to add a pinch of cayenne. I like mine spicier, so I do a decent covering. And then I'm going to add a dollop of hot honey. And this is a really good marinade. Like, it's convenient, like in the morning I'll make this, and then I'll let the tuna sit till about like maybe early dinner, maybe dinner time hours, and I just cook it real quick, like not even a minute on each side, and it turns out really nice. So that's a couple drops of that. And before I add the soy sauce, just get a fork and I'm gonna mix it up in here, just to make sure the honey blends in with the other ingredients, because obviously that's a liquid and then you got honey, so you gotta mix it in. And already I know this is definitely not enough. So now I'm gonna add my soy, because then that's when you have like an equation here. You add this and you add soy, and then you go back to the beginning and add more. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of soy. It smells delicious. It's a very strong smell, especially early in the morning. It'll wake you up. So I'm gonna give it a little taste test here. Obviously I washed my hands, so I'm good. Yeah, it needs more sesame seed oil. So this is like the guessing game here. Well, not guessing, you're taste testing and figuring out what you need more of. And I'll add like a decent bit of toasted sesame oil, give it a mix, and see what it needs from there. So, see, I'm over here mixing. Give it another taste test. Needs more cayenne and hot honey. I like mine spicy, so you don't have to go crazy. You can literally use regular honey instead of hot honey, but I'm a spice girl, so I like my heat. And I'm almost out of hot honey too, so I'm gonna need more of that. Okay, mixed up. So it's a lot of adding, tasting, adding, mixing, tasting, seeing what works best. And it's cool because it's not like just a based off recipe that you're reading off of a sheet of paper. You're making it for how it works for you based on flavor choice. We're almost there. Needs just a little bit more soy, and then I think we're good to go. So I'm gonna add a decent bit of soy. Mix it up. And let's see. Taste it. Perfect. We did it. We're right there. You see a big smile on my face? We did it. So next step, I just take my tuna, and if you have it in your fridge in a couple of days, like you want to wrap it in a paper towel just so it kind of absorbs all that. And let's just appreciate this cut right here. Like that's gonna be delicious later. Very much so excited for that. I'm gonna get a couple steak pieces out of that. You're gonna transfer it into a fresh Ziploc bag. This is how I do it. If you have your other methods of marinating, you know, whatever floats your boat, Cap. So we're going to transfer it to another Ziploc bag here. So it's in there. And then what I do from there is I will pour the contents of my mixing bowl into the Ziploc bag, fold it up, basically getting all the air out of it, really like folding it up so it sits nicely in with that marinade, and it'll marinate all around, and I'll keep it in the fridge for a couple hours. Like I said, I'll have it for dinner, but it's just a delicious dinner to have. You can, like what I do is I take sesame seeds, and after I take it out of the marinade, I cut it into steak pieces, and then I put sesame seeds on the edges, cook it for not even a minute on both sides, like really quick because I like it raw in the middle. And then I'll plate it over some basmati rice. That's my favorite. And then if I have extra marinade, I'll drizzle it on top. So usually before I pour all of it into the Ziploc, I'll reserve some in a little cup for later. So definitely give it a shot if you have some tuna laying around and you want to use it. Cook it up and enjoy it. And I'll see you guys on next week's Open Boat.
Now, until December 31st, Tsunami is giving away a Salt X waterproof backpack when you purchase a new Salt X2 reel. With its 19 seals and machined aluminum frame, the rugged Salt X2 can conquer any fishing condition you may face. Check out the QR code for all the details.
Last thing, of course, is the giveaway, which is ongoing. If you remember, last week we wrapped up the glide bait giveaway with an awesome photo that really exemplified exactly what I'm looking for in one of these photos, a well-composed picture that really sort of captures the essence of Northeast fishing. So this time around, we're going to give away a flat glide needlefish. We're probably going to throw in some NLBN paddle tails as well, just for good measure. And this one's going to wrap up on January 29th, so you got 3 months to impress me. And again, it's just got to be a well-composed photo of you holding your fish, and it has to be fairly recently caught. Outside of that, doesn't matter if it was on vacation or in your backyard, just get them in to me at danderson@thefisherman.com or text them to the number on the screen, and we'll see who wins. Moving over to the reports now, we're still getting some striped bass reports out of Maine. These are straggler fish. I have to believe that a lot of these fish are actually going to hold over, just move up into some of the rivers and stick around. So, you know, I'm calling it the striper swan song up there in Maine, and that continues down along the New Hampshire coast as well. Crossing the border into Massachusetts, we're going to check in with James Jewkes, but before we do, this is going to be James' last report. And, you know, that doesn't mean he's not going to do one here and there in the future, but he's moving. He's moving south. He's going to go down to be closer to his kids and his grandkids. And, you know, I want to wish him the best on that. I want to thank him for, I think, 3 years of almost every week putting a video in for us. And, you know, he's done a phenomenal job, and he's become really like a staple part of this report. So Jim's definitely going to be sorely missed, and so this will be his last one. He did say he's going to come up and hit a few tides now and then, or go to Cuttyhunk or go to Block Island. So hopefully I can convince him to, you know, maybe give us a report now and then when he's back in town. But for now, this is going to be the last one, so here he is.
Just up on the island, checking things out up here. And yes, there are still fish around. They're all fairly small, 20, 24 inches. You know, there's a couple that have been skating in a little bit bigger. Not much, but we are really starting to get towards the end of things. Water temperature is still nice. I don't think it's below 50, so it's still pretty good up here. But yeah, guys are catching. Up in the Merrimack, guys are getting carp, pike, smallmouth, you name it, they're getting it. Oh man, if you're not fishing in this weather, then I don't know what's going on. I shouldn't say anything because I haven't been fishing. And kind of sad to say this is going to be my last report. Me and the wife are moving down to South Carolina, giving all this beautiful stuff up for some new adventure. It's been a fantastic time doing these reports for Dave and the Fisherman. Kevin from Surfland's going to take over. I'm sure he'll do a great job. He has got a wealth of knowledge. Everybody enjoy themselves. Stay safe. Always help somebody if you have to. And please, catch and release. All right, that's it here from Plum Island. I will be back next year sometime, maybe.
Heading out of the North Shore now, we're going to check in Boston Harbor with Danny Parma from Fish Bucket Sport Fishing.
Thanks, Dave. Dan checking in. This week we had some action in the harbor. Seems like there's a good amount of bait in the harbor, but the bass are still there, just not as thick as they once were. If you got a chance to get offshore like we did on Sunday, you probably did pretty good. It was a beautiful day in the afternoon. A little chop in the morning, but you know, the afternoon was beautiful. We loaded up on some good-sized pollock and had a good time. It's ending pretty soon, so the doom and gloom is coming. So get out there if you can, you know, go out on a party boat, find a charter that's still running, you know, cast them from the shore if you gotta, but get your fishing in because it's ending soon. That's what I got for you. Stay safe. I'll catch you on the next one.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
Going down along the south shore now from Plymouth down to the canal, things are starting to really wind down. We're still seeing some movement of striped bass along those beaches. Most of these fish are schoolie sized fish, and the hits have been kind of sporadic, but they are there. It seems like daytime has been the best time to find these fish, but as we've talked about a few times in this report, if you want to try to find these fish at night, I highly recommend fishing around the mouths of rivers or inlets. You've got the North River, you've got Ellisville, you've got the canal, you've got Sandwich Creek on the other side, you've got Scorton Creek on the other side, and it just continues up the backside of the Cape from there. So you've got lots of little inlets that are going to have the power to sort of compress these fish into a into a fishable slot, and so that's a really good way to do that. At the same time, we have some really good freshwater fishing to talk about. From Plymouth all the way out onto the Cape, we're seeing big largemouth bass. I got this nice pic from Dan Southwick of a 6+ pound fish taken on a jig and pig. He had another nice fish as well. And we're also hearing about a lot of herring moving out of the ponds. And so you get a lot of fry moving out of the ponds. That's kicking up the largemouth and smallmouth bass activity. It's also kicking up the trout activity. So lots and lots of good freshwater fishing in the Cape region right now. It doesn't really matter what species you want to chase. The fishing's just been good. Outer beaches have had some migrating striped bass moving along the sand as well. A lot of these fish are moving quickly. Ice fish are on the smaller side, but still an opportunity to get that November Cape Cod fish. Also hearing about striped bass up inside the estuaries, where you have some of those herring fry coming out, where you have peanut bunker and sand eels and silver sides hanging out in there as well. Most of these fish are also on the smaller side, but we're seeing a few touching the slot and even a few, up into the high 30-inch class now and then. So you have some good striped bass opportunities there. Going around Monomoy into Nantucket Sound. It's one of the areas where there's been a pretty good amount of bonito around. I've actually heard there's been some albies around. I have not seen confirmation of this, but that's been the story that I keep hearing. So, when you hear it from a couple people, you tend to believe that it must be true. Kind of hard to believe given the weirdness of the albie season this year, but it sounds like they are there. It's been some schools of striped bass moving through that area. There's been a little bit of bluefish activity in there also. The rocky side of the vineyard, the north side, and along the Elizabeth, we've been seeing pretty good tog activity. Not a lot of big fish coming out of that region, but we are seeing good numbers of keeper-sized fish and good action overall. That pushes right through the islands into eastern Buzzards Bay and up toward the canal. Togging has been good in those areas as well. And then pushing into the canal, there's been some bonito in the canal, especially more toward the east end. And there's still stripers in there as well. For a little bit more on that, let's check in now with East End Eddie.
Hi Dave, it's a cold morning here in the Cape Cod Canal. It's starting to thaw out a little bit. My eyeballs are starting to feel a little bit better. And we got an east flood tide behind me, about a couple of hours into that. And things have been good for a week. There's a lot of slots have been caught and shorts. And so Donnie Donuts Morse was riding on the mainland side, and he spotted a huge school of stripers breaking, but they were right next to the riprap stone bank on the Cape side, so he couldn't reach them. You know, probably Bo McKinnon and Ron Ara and Bobby Dyer, I'm sure, could reach them, but the rest of us, mere mortals, just had to hope that the fish would come closer. And so some of the guys who have caught slots, Rob Fishsticks Pisa, Dave Bing Tomasia, Kimo Nagatori, Mark the Preacher McNeil, and Zach Attack Baker just caught a couple of slots right next to me, actually. And most of those fish were caught with Yozuri swimmers and Algag's soft plastic jigs. And congratulations to Tim Hollywood Petraka. He caught 3 slots the other day, but just before that, he caught a slot on the same day that he became a first-time grandfather. So he took that as an omen and as a sign, he told me. And so I told him, I said, his granddaughter's name's Chloe. I said, you know, I bet that Chloe will learn how to tie a Palomar knot before her ABC. So we'll see about that. Congratulations to Hollywood. He's a new grandfather. And so anyway, my tip of the week is make sure that you keep your feet planted as best you can on the canal. There's a lot of places where it's difficult to do, but just be prepared for a big hit. If a 30-pound fish hits your line, you're just going to get pulled off your spot if you're not careful, if you're not ready. I've seen that happen to guys before. I've seen some guys end up in the water like that. So just be careful and be prepared. And so there are still fish in the water, but I'm calling it quits right now. I've got some other projects I have to work on, and but you know, there'll be fishing continuing for at least another few weeks, off and on. And so thank you for watching this year. Thank you for your questions, and have a safe holiday season and a safe winter, and enjoy the holidays with your family. And God willing, we'll wet a line again in the spring.
Now heading out to the western part of Buzzards Bay. Togging has been really good out there. These fish are shallower than most people expect them to be at this time of the year. We're finding fish in 20 to 30 feet of water, but also finding some fish on the deeper pieces as well. It's been you know, a fair number of codfish mixing in these areas also, and striped bass activity has been kind of up and down, but some of the better fishing has actually been up inside the estuaries, or continues to be. Places like Paden-Aram Harbor, places like the Westport River. Most of these fish, just like other places, are on the smaller side, but there's a lot of bait up inside these estuaries, and the bass are taking notice, and they're not leaving, at least not yet. So that'd be a good place to go if you're looking to get some stripers, and that's what I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. Crossing over into Rhode Island, let's check in now with an East Bay report from TJ Kopecky.
Thanks, Dave. Hey guys, nice to be back again. Quick video again. Got the fastest 3 minutes in the East Bay for fishing. And today we're going to start again in the Mount Hope Bay. It's been lights out fishing with striped bass all over from Kickamuit up through the Coles River to the Lees River into the Taunton River. There's a lot of bait dropping out, and there's a lot of hungry fish just waiting to gorge on them, getting ready to migrate out of here. Secana River, Common Fence Point has been hot too. Fish are just moving back and forth. I mean, if you don't find them up near Spire Island, try looking over in Church's Cove and towards the Mount Hope Bridge. You're gonna find them there. Into the East Bay area, Colt State Park has been pretty good for tog fishing still off the pier. Moving up into the Warren River, there have been some reports of some bass over near Jacobs Point. So if you're in that area, try to get out there via the bike path and you know, fish that whole point around there. there's some good ambush points around there and fish towards that day marker that's in the Warren River. Moving further up, there's still a good tog bite up inside the Warren River, up towards the American Tourister. Getting into the Barrington River, there's been some fish breaking right at the bend of the Warren and the Barrington Rivers. So look for fish to be kind of congregated there where the current kind of gets messed up. It's a good ambush point there also. A little further up towards the bridges and into Hundred Acre Cove, it's still a ton of bait up there. There's a lot of small striped bass. They are finicky and hard to catch, but good reports from up there. I did fish this weekend. I did some tog fishing at Jamestown Bridge, and we did really well. We limited out. Biggest fish was 9 pounds. On the way in, we just happened to stop up in the Providence River, which is, by the way, another spot that is loaded with bait that's ready to come out. It's filtering out from the Seekonk River, just right into the Providence River. So Nayet Point up to, I would say, Squantum Club, look for bait and look for bass. There was tons of bass inside the Providence River, just feeding. They all had sea lice on them, which to me says they were fresh run fish. They're coming out of the ocean. They're coming up into our bays and into our rivers to feed on all that bait that we have to offer. So things are going to get good. And with this warmer weather here, it's literally keeping that water temperature at 60 degrees. So the fish really don't know if they're going to leave, come, leave, go. So lots of opportunities. Get out there and fish. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Tight lines.
Blackfishing has been the thing that's captured most of the angling attention this week in eastern Rhode Island. We have seen guys struggling a little bit to get keeper-sized fish or especially bigger fish over the last 7 days. I tend to wonder if these guys are staying up shallow and maybe the fish are just starting to move a little bit deeper, because a lot of the pros that I know are still getting some really nice fish. I think they're just moving a little bit deeper, so that's something you can try this week. We're also still seeing some really good tog fishing up inside the bay, and the other thing that's been surprising up inside the bay is the numbers of striped bass. Seeing a mixture of schoolies up to like 36 inches. These fish are on schools of bait. You can find them up in a lot of the smaller estuaries, like up inside the Taunton River, up inside like Bristol Harbor, up inside Apponaug Cove, or even all the way up to Providence. That's where a lot of these fish are. And it's been decent concentrations of stripers, so that's definitely a place you can go if you're looking to bend the rod on some bass. Heading out of the bay, getting down toward Point Judith, kind of the same thing we've been talking about everywhere. We've got striped bass moving. Stripers are on the move, and when they're on the move, we need something to concentrate them. You can fish prominent points like Point Judith. You're going to find some fish as they pass the tip, or you can get into some of the mouths of these estuaries, like the Narrow River, like the Short Wall, like Ninnegrit Pond, or any one of the breachways. These are all classic late fall spots that are going to be holding fish right now. Definitely a really good way to do it, and South County is, classic fall fishing. You also have the opportunity during the day to find some blitzing fish, so you've got a lot of different ways to bend the rod on some stripers right now. Heading out toward Block Island, we're still seeing some tog around the block. We're seeing more and more codfish, and seeing decent sea bass fishing, even some scup around. And for a little bit more on that, let's check in now with Captain John Lee from JL Charters.
Hey, how you doing? John Lee, JL Charters, Point Judith, Rhode Island. A strong week of fishing. I had some good trips. Ran offshore, black sea bass fishing. Best bite I've seen all year. Just a crazy jig bite. Fishing 90 to 120 feet of water. Green bonitas on bottom with them. Some codfish. Just a lot of fun. Inshore, the green bonitas are still hanging around. There's some bluefish hanging around. Some big scups still up inside. Everything's keyed in on sand eels. There's a bunch of rain bait around. There's a lot of mackerel around. The tautog fishing is kind of peaking right now. There's just a lot going on. If you get the weather, you gotta go. This all ends pretty soon. Enjoy it. Take care.
And then the last thing, just heading back out along the South County beaches, the wrecks and rock piles, and then the reefs, especially as we get closer to New York and Connecticut. We're seeing some bigger tog moving in. I got this picture today from Mikey D'Alfonso. Looks to be pushing double digits anyway. That was a nice fish from that area. And just sort of shows that we're seeing a movement of larger fish into the extreme western part of Rhode Island and into the eastern half of Long Island Sound. And that's what I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Now, heading into eastern Long Island Sound, as we were sort of alluding to on this last little bit of Rhode Island, we're seeing a lot more larger tog moving into eastern Long Island Sound. Talking to charter guys, talking to recreational fishermen, we've just seen a market increase in like 7 to 9, even 10-pound fish in the eastern Sound over the last 7 days. So that's definitely something that you should be getting excited about. A lot of these fish are shallow. It seems like the Sound is staying a little warmer than other places. We've had pretty steady, nice warm weather. I'm standing here in shorts right now. And that's cooling the waters a lot more slowly than what we might typically expect. So don't be afraid to fish 10 to 15 feet of water. You might find some really good fish up in there. But also, I'm still hearing about fish in 30, 40, 50, even 60 feet of water in the Sound. So if you're looking for a big blackfish, be flexible, be mobile, and fish the eastern Sound. You got a good chance of finding some good ones. Striped bass seem to be moving around a lot more in the Sound this week. We're seeing some small fish around the mouth of the Thames. We're seeing some small fish kind of moving in and out of Niantic Bay. A couple of larger fish up inside the Thames River, moving up toward Norwich. And even some bluefish around the Millstone outflow right now. But on the whole, no matter who I talk to, it seems like the striped bass are moving. They're just constantly on the move right now. Which is making it a little bit tougher to target these fish day to day, but it's indicative of the time of year that we're in right now. And the striped bass fishing is going to start to thin out a little bit more every week as we move toward December. For a little bit more on all that, let's check in now with Captain Mike Roy from Realcast Charters.
Hey, what's up everybody? For this week's Fisherman Report, we're coming into the end of the first week of November, and pretty common this time of year. What happens is we're having waves of stripers push through Long Island Sound. So a few days ago, you could go out one day and not see anything, and then a few days go by and we're seeing stripers migrate through. So it's all about timing. It's a little bit unpredictable, but there are waves of schoolies, a lot of schoolie size fish, some slot and over slot size, 30-inch class fish migrating through. They're going to hit topwaters and small soft plastics really well. Black fishing is good. It actually got even better as the temperatures aren't really that cold, but we did get a few cool nights, and seeing like that turn the blackfish bite on a bit. But same story with them. You have to be on a piece of bottom that hasn't been overfished yet. That's all I have for you. We're running trips through November 15th.
Now let's head up the river. We'll check in with Rowan Lytle.
Hey everybody, so much warmer weather is definitely keeping the smallmouth bass and largemouth in the Connecticut River fairly aggressive. A little cool down through the weekend might slow things a bit, but with low water levels and relatively stable water temperatures, I expect things to stay pretty good. Large presentations may still be working. You might have to shift to some more finesse tactics. The pike are getting a little more fired up, but they're still not really crazy active yet. But unseasonably warm weather for November definitely doesn't suck. We have some good fishing ahead of us.
Now we'll head out of the river and we'll check in quick with Matt Stone at Black Hall Outfitters.
How's it going, everyone? Matt here from Black Hall Outfitters in Westbrook with this week's fishing report. Out here on another weirdly beautiful November day. Probably should be in a t-shirt. I feel like every time I do a report, we're talking about the unseasonably warm weather. But we'll take it. Not having numb hands during blackfish season is always a bonus. And the bite is still really good. I'm still fishing the same spots in terms of depth, 15, pumping out if it gets a little slow around 15. Guys are picking off fish in less than 10 in some spots. I have heard multiple guys say that the deeper fish seem to be a little more aggressive. So if you're having a lot of peckish small fish in spots that you do feel confident there are larger fish in, and those are shallow, definitely try bumping out. You know, if you're fishing 20, just take a little leap out to 40, up your lead or your jig weight, and give that a shot out there. Other than that, I mean, the water is obscenely clear. I'm dropping my jig on visible, patches of sand in 12 feet of water out there, which is pretty wild. Other than that, there are still some pretty good small stripers bopping around. If you got little, albie snacks or epoxies or anything along those lines to throw at them, you can get your kind of last gasp stripers for the year before those guys tuck into creeks like ours for their winter, stick their bellies in the mud. Other than that, just keep an eye out. As it gets colder, those blackfish will move deeper, but it's early November and it's not quite cold. So happy fishing. Good luck out there.
Heading west of the Connecticut River, we are hearing about really good tog fishing on the reefs out there. Now, it's not as many bigger fish in this area. It doesn't mean there's none. It's just not as consistent for producing these larger fish. However, finding limits has been very, very easy, and the action has been off the hook. The guys are also getting some nice sea bass when they're fishing a little deeper, and there's still lots of porgies around. So you've got this great opportunity for mixed bag action. We're even hearing about some codfish out in that area. So you could do the bottom bouncers grand slam or whatever you want to call it. Striper fishing in that region has been spottier. Most of the fish are on the smaller side. They've been hard to pin down because they're constantly on the move. And the same could be said for the bluefish, which have been even harder to find. One place does have a more concentrated, a better concentration of striped bass has been the area around and moving into the mouth of the Housatonic River. That's pretty typical for this time of the year as these fish move in for their, winter, winter holdover area. And it can produce some really good catches for surf fishermen and boat fishermen and kayak fishermen alike. So that's a good place to concentrate on right now if you're looking for some better sized striped bass. Togging's been good on the walls. It's been good on some of the deeper ledges and wrecks. And for a little bit more on what's going on out west, let's check in now with Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with another local fishing report. This past week on the Blackfish tournament for Fisherman's World, we've seen fish over 10 pounds and like 3 or 4 fish in the 9 to mid 9 pound range. So the bite is still fantastic. Guys are now getting them deep water wrecks and shallow water. You can bounce around all over and find some, really nice fish. I'm seeing fish, over the 8 pound mark coming on 60 foot or more wrecks, and I'm seeing fish over 8 pounds coming from 15 to 20 foot or less. So bouncing around and hitting those spots that aren't pounded every day is key. Even exploring and finding new rock piles, even if they're small, getting on top of them if you have a spot lock or trying different wrecks that aren't as popular can really produce some really nice fish, and you can get some knothead sea bass in the mix. There's still porgies being caught. This time of year, we're seeing some really, really big ones. So I've seen some really nice size hubcaps. Guys are still doing some good from the beaches, and usually they're really big. They're not the real small ones. The small ones tend to flood into deeper waters this time of year. And the bass are roaming our beaches. Stratford, like Longshore in Westport, and then Stratford beaches are really good. The mouth of the Housatonic has been really good. Middle ground has been really good. Locally in our deep water reefs, it's not as good as to the east, but this should get better moving into Thanksgiving. There are fish up in our estuaries like Ziegler's Cove, behind the power plant, and then Norwalk Harbor is always a great spot this time of year. Guys like Live Line and Peanuts are using that 4 to 6 inch range baits like albie snacks, small spooks, small poppers. If you're gonna target sea bass, I would say still concentrate on some deep water wrecks. I'm knowing guys that are, solely going for sea bass right now, and they're finding some really big knotheads on like 50 foot or more, even up to 100 foot wrecks this time of year. You can get them, inshore, shallow water, but it gets difficult with all the porgies and blackfish in the mix. Guys that are really doing good on them are using squid or diamond jigs, you name it, and the middle ground seems like they're holding some really big sea bass right now. There's still some bonito floating around, so keep a rod ready. We should see them taper off soon, but it's good to have something rigged and ready to cast at them. Who knows, you could be on anchor, blackfishing. Next you got a school of bonito popping up behind the boat. It takes 2 seconds to get a cast at them, hook up. Then you got a delicious dinner. Thanks and good luck.
And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully it's going to convince you to get out there and do some fishing. We got Veterans Day coming up this weekend, so hopefully you got an extra day off and you can get out there and wet a line. If you're not a subscriber to The Fisherman, I highly recommend you head over to our website. That's thefisherman.com. You're going to get a full taste of what we offer. We cover all the fishing from Delaware to Maine. And we cover every angling discipline you can think of, whether you're a fly, surf, inshore, paddleboard, kayak, whatever. It doesn't matter. We cover it all. And it's $29.95 for a year. You're going to get 12 paper issues sent to your door, and you're also going to get 26 digital editions sent to your email from April through mid-November. It's the best $30 you can spend in fishing. And if you need more proof of that, you get to go over to our website. You can look at all the back issues, and you can look at all the back issues and current issues of our other 2 editions. So we have 3 editions: New Jersey, Delaware, New York Metro, and then my edition, the New England edition. That covers pretty much the entire northern half of the East Coast. How could you go wrong? Check us out over there, but if you're still not convinced, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing right there so you get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.